Hello, welcome to Getting to Know You, residents and staff at Stonebridge. You're watching the third episode in this series shown on our own channel 1979. You may know that this effort began when Jeff Tiener, the new president of the Resident Association, realized that because of the virus lockdown, I keep looking for a different way to say that, we as the community did not have a chance to get to know the candidates as a community, as we usually do at a large meeting in the auditorium. So with Robin Doherty doing the taping on her trusty iPhone, Sandy Hyatt, our timer, with his homemade time cards, and me, Ingrid Reed, your host, using rusty skills that I first learned at the community television station, we got started. Today, we are in preparation. I'm so pleased to welcome someone many of you know well if you attend the Saturday evening programs, Julia Cole. She's the person, as a member of the program committee, who often introduces and probably recruited the performer or the speaker of the evening. Julia, thank you for your service on the executive committee as secretary, and congratulations on your election as vice president. You're such a valuable resource around here at Stonebridge because of your involvement and leadership roles in the Princeton community. Could you give us some idea of what they were and are, and so we can get to know you?
Sure. Well, hello everybody. As most of you know, I grew up in Princeton and then came back to Princeton a number of years ago. I practiced law for 32 years, about 25 of them in Princeton. So I know the community very well. And in terms of sort of volunteer activity, I was on the board of the Princeton YMCA for about 25 years. I was the president of the Friends of Princeton Public Library. I was the president of Community Without Walls, House 2, for a while, and then I came up through the old guard of Princeton and have just finished a 2-year term as president of that. And I am a docent at the Art Museum, so I'm learning a lot about art that I didn't know before. So when I came to Stonebridge, I knew that I was told that the need for committees was on the program committee. And so I joined the program committee at that time and was sort of reorganizing, getting some new members, and some of the older members were bowing out. So I've been a member of that committee for 4 years and am now chairman of that committee. And we have a whole new cast of characters, including Ingrid, thank you, and Dick Iger is on that committee, right. Is great, and Joyce Meso, and
she's staying on the committee, was the chair.
Right, and Lois Laverty with her music background, and Barbara Johnson. It's really been a great committee, and so
it's fun too.
We'll have to get ourselves geared up again and meet soon and figure out what we can do. So that's what I've done at Stonebridge. I was secretary of the executive committee last year, keeping minutes of the meetings of the executive committee and our town hall meetings that are sponsored by the Residents Association.
Well, I want to call on your experience with the executive committee as it relates to the program committee, because it's hard to know, what does the executive committee do?
Right.
Well, we had a problem, and you took it to the committee.
Right.
And so I thought maybe you'd just like to briefly describe how that worked, and if you could add a little something about the general responsibility that the executive committee has for the many program committees. I think there are about 17.
Well, there are 15 committees. The Residents Association, every resident at Stonebridge is a member of the Residents Association. It has bylaws that are available for people to read. And the purpose of the Residents Association is to be a liaison, partly to be a liaison between residents and the management here. Also to organize activities of all kinds and committees, and so it's a pretty wide open scope of work, and we're hoping that we can, and we're starting to ad hoc a lot of, during this shutdown, the sheltering in place, a number of things have popped up, like making masks. We have another thing we'll talk about in a minute. So people are bubbling up, ideas are bubbling up, and they don't have to be done formally through the committees. There are 15 committees, and the committees are established through the bylaws. Every committee chairs are appointed by the president of the executive committee, and each committee has a liaison from the executive committee that is supposed to keep track of what's going on, report back to the executive committee. And each committee has a chance at least once a year, sometimes twice, to get up in the town hall meeting, which is a meeting of all the residents, and describe what they do and ask for volunteers or that kind of thing. In addition to that, on the bulletin board, when we get back in the building, are minutes of the committees, information about the committees. So what happened in the program committee, we were kind of having budgetary problems, and the program committee has 2 budgets, which is very lucky. We have a budget from the management, and then the residence committee also provides some funding for us, so that the management of Stonebridge will pay for professional people to come who are so-called vendors. But some people come who are volunteers, and we give honoraria to them or to their not-for-profit groups, that kind of thing. So we sort of got ourselves back in gear, and I think we were doing well until all of this happened. So we're looking to meet again this summer and see what we can kind of come up with.
So the executive committee helped
Oh,
us
absolutely.
solve that problem of
Yeah, we brought the
honoraria.
problem, and we
Yeah.
about how we were going to get reorganized and get back on track, and it's very helpful.
Okay. Since we're all looking to the future and hopeful that we'll get back to normal, are you thinking of some things for the future? You mentioned that briefly. Do you have a project that you're working on now that you think people might want to know
I
about?
think there's some things going on, and then I was just thinking about the garden, which has been a big hit, big hit, and that's an important feature, something, place where people can come together and do things together and enjoy each other. Sylvia Wagner came up with an idea a few weeks ago that we should try to, because this pandemic is a once-in-a-lifetime event, we should try to memorialize that in some way and get the residents' input and photographic and put together. So we're planning to do a book. We're waiting for approval from Mary and Brooke on our idea, but the book would, as we envision it, would describe a timeline of what's gone on here since the beginning of this. We'll have photographs. Jock and McFarland and other people will have photographs to show what these things look like. We want to have a questionnaire from the residents to find out what people felt, what their feelings, reactions were, so that we can include that in the book. We thought that we could also include some short statements from various staff members of what they did during the pandemic. A lot of staff people were reassigned and were doing different things, plus they were going through a lot of their other staff being affected by COVID, that we never saw any of this. So we'd like to get some of that Sturm und Drang included in the booklet. So we see this as kind of a booklet, and that's what we're working on now.
Right, so it'll be for everybody.
Oh yes, it's for everybody.
Well, we'll have to do a program on it when you're ready, okay?
Okay.
Well, Julia, I want to thank you for all you're doing. You're a valuable resource here, and we're delighted that you've now taken on a little bit more responsibility and have some new things coming up for all of us.
Well, thank you.
So I want to thank all of you who are watching, And if all goes well, we hope to make the next show an interview with a staff member. That's all I'm going to say right now. And feel
Surprise
free,
guest.
yes, right. And
Fine.
feel free to give us advice and encouragement. I'm Ingrid Reed, speaking for the team, Robin, Sandy, and Jeff. Stay tuned.